All right, let's dive into a story that has all the makings of a high-stakes political thriller, but it's pulled straight from the ancient book of Esther. We're talking serious palace intrigue, calculated risks, hidden identities, and a truly sinister plot for genocide that all comes down to the courage of one woman.
This one line, this single question, really sets the stage for the whole story. It's this powerful challenge thrown at a queen who suddenly realizes the fate of her entire people is resting squarely on her shoulders. It really makes you think, right? What do you do when you are the only one who can possibly make a difference?
So where does it all begin? Well, our story ignites with just one single act of defiance. And this is where we meet our two main players. You've got Haman, the newly promoted, power-hungry prime minister of the Persian Empire, and then you have Mordecai, a Jewish official who just sits at the king's gate.
So, King Xerxes issues a pretty simple command. Everyone has to bow down and show respect to Haman, his new second-in-command. And everybody does it, except for one guy, Mordecai. Day after day, he just refuses, publicly.
So you have to ask, why? Why would he risk it? Well, it wasn't just about disrespecting a politician. See, the specific Hebrew words used for this command, Kurim umishtahavim, they're almost exclusively used in the Bible for worshiping God. So for Mordecai, bowing to Haman would have been like idolatry. It would have violated the very core of his faith as a Jew. At first, Haman doesn't even notice, but then his servants point it out, and he realizes this public snub has been going on for a while. And his wounded pride just explodes. This isn't just an insult anymore, it's a public humiliation. And his anger, it's demanding a massive, totally disproportionate revenge. And this, right here, is where a personal grudge spirals into a state-sponsored plot for actual ethnic cleansing. Haman decides that punishing just one man, no, that's not nearly enough. He's going to wipe out Mordecai's entire people. So Haman goes to the king with this masterclass and manipulative propaganda. Seriously, it's a classic formula. He starts with this vague, sinister accusation about a certain people, never even saying who they are. Then he moves to a half-truth. Yeah, their customs are different. And he finishes with a flat-out lie that they don't obey the king's laws, which is basically a charge of treason. And to seal the deal, Haman offers a bribe that is just staggering. We're talking 10,000 talents of silver. To give you some perspective on that, that's about 60% of the entire Persian Empire's annual revenue. He is basically offering to fund this whole horrific plan himself, appealing directly to the king's greed. And the king's reaction is, well, it's shocking how careless it is. He doesn't ask which people, he doesn't ask for any proof, he just takes off his signet ring, the symbol of all his authority, hands it to Haman, and pretty much says, the money's yours, the people are yours, do whatever you want. And just like that, a death warrant for an entire nation is sealed. But while all this is happening, while this death sentence is being written up, there's one person who is completely in the dark, Queen Esther. She's tucked away in the palace, and she has no idea that a law has just been signed to annihilate her own people. When Esther finally finds out what's going on, her situation is incredibly dangerous. I mean, she's just learned about this horrifying decree, and on top of that, she hasn't even been called to see the king for a whole month. That's a really bad sign. And now Mordecai is telling her she has to do the one thing that's forbidden, approach the king without being invited. I mean, look at this. She's caught in a totally impossible situation. If she acts, she breaks Persian law by going to the king uninvited, a crime that carries the death penalty. Plus, she'd have to reveal her Jewish identity, which she's kept secret this whole time. But if she stays silent, Mordecai's warning is clear. She's not safe either. She will die along with everyone else. It is a perfect, inescapable trap. Mordecai's message to her is just absolutely searing. He completely shatters any fantasy she might have had that being queen would protect her. He tells her, point blank, don't you dare think for 1 second that being in the palace will save you. If you do nothing, you and your family are finished. So Esther makes her choice. She tells Mordecai to get all the Jews in the city to join her in a radical 3-day fast. No food, no water. She and her staff will do the same. She is publicly identifying with her people's suffering. And then she says she will go to the king, and she fully expects it's going to cost her her life. And right here, this is the moment Esther transforms. She goes from being a sort of passive queen who's just reacting to things to a brilliant political strategist. She doesn't just burst into the throne room and beg for her life. Oh no,
she sets in motion this incredibly careful, calculated plan to take control of the entire situation.
Her strategy is just genius. First, she approaches the king and manages to get his approval. But instead of blurting out her request, she invites him and Haman, of all people, to a private banquet. This makes the king super curious. Then, at that dinner, she still doesn't say what she wants. Instead, she invites them to a second banquet the next day. She's building the suspense to a fever pitch and, at the same time, making Haman feel totally secure and important. So Haman leaves that first dinner feeling like he's on top of the world. I mean, he's the only person in the entire empire invited to dine privately with the king and queen. But on his way out, who does he see? Mordecai, still sitting there, still not even standing up for him. And in a flash, all that joy just evaporates, and it's replaced by that same old boiling rage. This one little moment sets the stage for the story's incredible turning point. Because on the single night between Esther's two banquets, a whole series of stunning coincidences is about to change absolutely everything. It all kicks off with something super simple. That night, the king can't sleep. Just a random bout of insomnia. But this one small detail is about to unravel Haman's entire evil plot. So, to kill some time, he does what, any of us would do when we can't sleep. He calls a servant to read him the official government records, the royal chronicles. And out of all the records from all the years of his entire reign, the servant just so happens to open the book to an entry from 5 years ago, an entry detailing how some guy named Mordecai uncovered an assassination plot and saved the king's life. The king's ears perk up. He asks a pretty obvious question. Hey, what honor or reward did we give this Mordecai guy for his loyalty? The servants check the records, and the answer comes back, nothing. Nothing at all was done for him. And at that exact moment, just as the king is processing this huge injustice, a visitor shows up in the court. And who else would it be? It's Haman. He's arrived at the crack of dawn with a very specific and very deadly request in mind. And this is where we're going to leave it, because the setup is just perfect. Haman is there to ask for permission to execute Mordecai. The king, at the very same moment, wants to finally reward Mordecai. So the king turns to Haman, who he thinks is his most loyal advisor, and asks him for some advice. So, what happens when Haman, assuming the king is talking about him, describes the most over-the-top public honor he can possibly imagine, only to find out it's all for the very man he came there to kill?